Gather round, children. Listen to my tale. Don't be shy, it's only a story. It won't hurt a hair. It started on a night just like this one. Halloween night. Everyone scattered with fun. It was the seasonal holiday, but to all's dismay, it was not normal like every other day. But besides these tricks and treaters amok, these high school students just wanted some spunk. They went to a Halloween party just to feel it out. Then began the story of Halloween doubts.
Oh my god, stop with the rhyme! Yeah!
Okay, relax. Alright, I'll tell the story without rhymes. Okay. This is Anais. Alright. High school student, gets straight A's, sometimes slips with some B's. And Anais is a special girl because since the age of 6, she knew that she wanted to go on and cure cancer. And since that day, she decided that she knew that the way to do that was to get to a good paying school, get good grades, and move on up in the world. So that's exactly what Anais did. Throughout her whole life, basically, she would spend most of her weekends alone, working on her homework, studying, making sure she's doing all the work that she needs to do. So she never really had time to go out and make new friends. But she does have this study group that she hangs out with most of the time. And the reason why I wouldn't qualify them as friends is because they kind of just make fun of her. Whenever she gets an answer wrong, whenever they're studying together, they always just want to pick on her and make fun of her. And that happens a lot because no matter how hard she tries, passing these tests doesn't come quite as effortlessly as the other girls in this friend group. So when she would hang out with this study group, it would always bother her that they would make fun of her whenever she got the answers wrong. It made her feel like she needed to work harder. It made her feel stressed out that her work wasn't going anywhere. She would always feel like she wasn't worth it enough. And it didn't help either that the really only family that was around her was her parents, and they were in the middle of going through a bad divorce. So Anais is just basically a girl that's on her own, fending for herself, but she has a dream and she's gonna do whatever it takes to achieve it. She could care less about the friends, she could care less about all of this. She'd rather just stick to her goals and follow it. She is going to cure cancer no matter what anyone says. And one day while Anais was studying, the freak? What was... Okay. Never mind that, kids, alright? I don't know what that was. I'm tripping, alright? Anyway, one day while Anais was studying, one of the friends brought up the high school Halloween party. Just a fun little get-together, nothing too crazy. It was a school event that was run by the principal of the school. Anais always had weird feelings about this principal. He always smelled like peppermint. He was just a big dude. She was just intimidated whenever he would walk up to her. He would always be looking down at her like this. Anais was like a small person, and he was always breathing out of his mouth. Now, personally, I don't understand the peppermint complaint. Peppermint can smell fine, but breathing out of your mouth? Now that's a problem, alright? Now I understand you on that, Anais. Good looks for that. But all around, he was just a strange individual, and she just didn't really like him that much. So she would always just try to avoid him as much as possible. At first, Anais was like, I don't really want to go, guys. I have to study up on some more work. Anais knew she had a big test the next day. She really needed to study for it. But all the other group mates were just effortlessly smart, and like no matter what, they could just memorize whatever the teacher said, and they could just spit it back out on the test. So they didn't even need to study. So they were like, we're going to this Halloween party and we don't need to study. Let's go out there and just party. We can have some fun. It'll be cool, Anais. Why are you such a downer? Right, girls? She's such a downer. What a loser. She has no friends. You want to be at home studying on a night like Halloween? Eventually, Anais caved. She didn't like them poking fun at her. So she was like, okay, yeah, I'll go. And so, the weekend came where the Halloween party started. The principal didn't really get paid much at their school. It was kind of a rundown school, But his wife, on the other hand, had a very successful business and she would make a lot of money. And you could see how much money they were making just by looking at their house alone. It was huge. Anais had always heard about how rich his wife was, but looking at the house in person made her gasp. And not only was the house super big, but there was people everywhere. And Anais is already like an introverted person. So seeing all these people here was obviously such a shock. And she was like, oh. Eventually she was calmed down by her friends, and then they just walked inside to scope out the shrines. And there was music just blasting. You could even hear it outside. The freaking ground was shaking. As Anais walked through this huge house that was just filled to the brim with, she saw all these people from her school here. She was like, damn, this is pretty much everyone from my school here. So she thought to herself, hearing all the loud music playing, she knew that like if something went wrong here, literally no one would know or even care. And that made her a little anxious. And after the group seeing how packed the inside of the house was, they just decided to go chill outside. They walked outside, they just sat on the grass. There was a good amount of like woods behind. And it was becoming nighttime slowly. These woods started to slowly grow black and you couldn't see much in the forest. But it didn't matter because she was with her friends and they were just chilling, just talking, cracking jokes. For the first time in a long time, Anais was actually having some good fun with her friends. It wasn't about studying anymore. It was just about having fun, chilling together on a Halloween night. They weren't making fun of her now. But for some reason, she kept feeling like something was wrong. You know how you get the feeling where you feel like someone is just like staring at you and you have to take like a quick look to make sure that nothing's going wrong or something like that? Well, Anais felt that in this moment. She didn't know what it was, but she just felt something strong, like someone was staring at her. And she quickly turned around and she looked into the now super dark woods, and she's looking deep in there and she doesn't see anything. And so she just went back talking with her friends, and eventually she just forgot all about it. And about 13 minutes later, she heard a noise. It was in the woods. She turned back around. Instantly she saw it. A shadow, basically, of a human-like creature with some weird shaped head. And she was just in awe. And she looked at it, and then she blinked once and then was gone. She was extremely worried, extremely confused. And when she turned to ask her friends if they had heard it, they were like, oh, no, you're crazy. What are you talking about, girl? And Anais is already worried. She's like, what the heck? This is the second time now. I know I saw something in that woods. I don't know what it was, but it was something. I heard it. What is happening? And their friends just continued talking after they stopped laughing at her. I'm thirsty. Let's go inside and get some punch, girls. They walked in, and Anais, of course, followed behind because she did not want to be near those woods any longer. They walked to the punch table, which is always at these parties. Have you ever watched a movie? Anais wasn't thirsty because she was still kind of frightened by what happened. And if you have ever been frightened by something, you know you have no appetite. All right, you're just, adrenaline is up there. All her friends backs are turned, they're getting their punch, and Anais is just like looking off into like the whole crowd because she didn't really take the time before to really survey the area and all the costumes going on. And she's sitting there and she's looking through all these people, looking at all the costumes. There's a Superman. Ooh, there's a zombie over there, kind of scary. Good one. There's a ghost, there's a vampire, and whoa, what is that? There was a weird shaped hat, and instantly she snapped back to reality. That was the same shape of the thing that she saw in the woods. So she walks through the crowd, keeps walking. She's trying to figure out what she saw, if it has any correlation or anything. Her heart is beating out of her chest. And then it's an odd costume of a dude that had put blue all over his face, on his arms, and it just had a muscular shape. He had a beard and the red pants, but Papa Smurf only has a red hat, not a white hat. Everyone knows that. And that was the scariest part of it, honestly. And she's looking at this dude dressed up as a Smurf. And as soon as she saw this man, her heart stopped. Her world stopped. She gained tunnel vision, and she didn't know what to do because she knew exactly that is the thing that she saw in the woods. There was no mistaking it. And as soon as Anais saw this man, she knew she needed to get out of this house. Just slowly walked out. She walked back outside. There was a group just playing hacky sack on the corner, and she thought she would just stand by them and blend in and just wait for her friends to finish, I guess. She didn't really think it through. Sometimes when you're scared, you just don't really know what to do or think. And some time passes. She's just sitting there. Eventually, she's breathing a little bit better, but she's still nervous. She's watching them play hacky sack. And eventually she feels someone's tapped her shoulder. Someone has a strong grip on her shoulder, this huge hand compared to hers. She knew exactly who it was, but she knew that she just needed to confirm it by looking up. She heard someone sniff behind her. She looked up, and there he was. Her adrenaline immediately took over, and she started sprinting. Her brain didn't even have any control of it. Running and like crying because she's so scared. And she's running like this. She doesn't know where she's going. And then eventually she's just hearing all these sounds, the same sounds that she heard before she looked in the woods. And then eventually she opens her eyes. Oh my goodness gracious. She is in the woods. Anais was in the dark woods all alone, didn't know anywhere where she was. The only sound left was just crickets and the strange sounds of nature at midnight. She was very close to crying, but she decided to just hold it in and just deal with it afterwards, because she was already used to it growing up. Wow. And since we live in the year of our Lord 2024, she takes out her phone, she pulls out the GPS, types in the location of where the principal's house was, and started to follow her way back home. And as she's walking, she's like looking around herself. She can barely see anything around her because it's so dark. She could barely see the trees in front of her. Her heart is beating the most that she's ever felt. And if it beat any harder, she probably would have had a heart attack. Do, 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 do. And then he walked out behind a tree. The atmosphere slowly started to turn minty, almost like a peppermint smell. She started hearing loud, obnoxious breathing noises from what's probably coming out of a mouth. And she had to look up to a person that was about 6'5". She peed her pants. The next day she came up as missing. The authorities went through everyone at the party to question them to see if they have any ideas of where she could have possibly have been. None of her study mates knew where she was. There were kids outside that said they might have heard a faint screaming sound inside of the woods, but it led to a dead end. They went into the woods with flashlights one day and they couldn't find anything. She's still missing to this day. No one knows what happened to her, but if you ask me, I think the sneaky Smurf took her to Smurf Village.
Smurf your day.